We're live. We are live now, and I will be talking to my guest in a second after I play the interlude, and it's a very exciting. And turn my phone down. We're gonna get it started. What's up, y'all? What is happening? What's the business? What's the deal? It's Sunday afternoon, and I got a very exciting guest with me today. Let me turn my. Welcome to Third Eye Visions. The music that you hear in the background has been provided. King OJ. If y'all got any y'all want to hear any music in y'all background, y'all want some music, my man King OJ can provide it with, to y'all, whatever the case may be, any background music, any intros, whatever the case may be. My name is Anthony Parker, and I want to welcome everyone, each and everyone to the show. And let me do my interlude because I'm excited. She's busy, so I don't want to waste too much of her time. And we're going to jump right into welcome to Third Eye Visions, where we motivate the blind, stimulate your mind, and welcome all kind. Today, we are talking about resolving conflicts through mediation. There's a lot going on these days, y'all, which has created so much conflict and chaos. And here to give us some solutions, strategies, techniques, suggestions, tips, etc., for resolving conflicts through mediation is my friend, none other than Cindy Hurs, whose brief bio consists of this, y'all. Check it out. She she's a native of Louisiana, a native of Louisiana, 20 years of social service experience, mostly working in uh, communities which were underserved. She discovered many issues that needed to be addressed, especially in the African American community. She founded the Sankofa, I hope I said it right, project in 2007, which is a film production and publishing agency which focuses on uh, self awareness and social cultural issues, movements. She also produced her first social and culturally film, which is called Natural Woman, and I definitely can say that was a great film. I had the pleasure of being, on the committee in terms of promoting it. She traveled across the United States and in Europe in order to promote this. She has conducted topics on race and gender. She has published the Natural Mommy and Daughter coloring book. She has another one coming out in 2018. Um, let's see what else she has done. Man, she's done a lot. And she also obtained a undergrad uh degree. It's in psychology at Southern University, and also a she also got a degree in social, what is it, conflict resolution.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna let her come on and tell you a little bit more about who she is as we get ready to talk about this. But before I do that, make sure y'all subscribe, hit the notification bell, like, share, and comment. So with that being said, I want to welcome my friend and your friend before this is over with, Cindy Hurs. What's up?
Hey, Anthony. Finally, it's so good to finally be here. I know you've been trying to get at me for a minute, but I'm just happy to be here.
I'm glad to have you here. Give the audience a little bit of what I missed about who you are and what prompts you to basically talk about conflict, mediation, and social issues and things of that nature.
Um, I guess what I can say, the heart and soul of me is basically social justice uh, for Black people and women. So just let's be clear what population of people that I am working with. There is just so much injustice in with Black people. We notice that there are two different justice systems. There are two different educational systems. There are so many different systems that are substandard for Black women. and men. And then there's also women have a double issue because we're women and we're also Black. I consider myself to be Black first. So most of my issues, I deal primarily with Black issues. And sometimes I deal with issues that deal with women only, but primarily I work with systems that deal with Black people as a whole.
Okay. You have anything else you want to add?
No, I mean I'm currently in school. I'm about to get out of school with a master's in social work from Tulane University, which is why it's been Anthony has been having such a hard time getting me because I work full time and I go to school full time. So
All right. Well, first off, you have a great deal of experience in psychology and the dynamics of social changes and their effects. Speak on what you have noticed in the race relations that you have created, that has been created over the years. Like what have you noticed as far as um, with the black race? What have you noticed to be something which has caused a great deal of conflict, which in terms cause us to march to do things of that nature? And you can mention like things that have transposed or transferred in the past or has happened in the past and things like that. You follow what I'm saying?
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so let's be clear. Right now we are dealing with something that we're in a big deal of trouble right now with this administration politically in charge. It's almost as though we have gone back to the Jim Crow era, and I do mean that in a literal sense. And I think prior to when we had our golden years of Obama in office for 8 years, I think that people were. I don't want to say that there wasn't any racism. I don't believe in a post racial existence because people still see color. We're still largely discriminated against. But I think during that time, I think that people were, in general, were more at ease with each other, be it color, be it um, gender. So after Trump took office, I think that he gave everybody who was already a bigot or racist or xenophobic, I think that he gave them permission to become it out loud and in public. So whereas now there used to be, in some sense, a very covert type of racism, and now you have a very overt type of racism where you have, I mean, so much is happening. I mean, it's like I remember when he first got elected, they had people, they had white people just going into grocery stores shooting black people and saying they were shooting them because they were black. You have an
Okay.
uprising of all of these different white supremacist groups. I mean, it's just like we are literally like living in times that are, you know, way back in the 50s and 60s. And it's terrible.
Why do you think that um, having this president has allowed people to come out the quote unquote closet to create so much conflict, to create so much chaos? Why do you think that just this one man has solidified given the green light or red light, whatever? What green light?
Yeah.
To,
Because
to,
I think it's because he exhibits all of those character traits. And according to his followers, he's the top dog. He's the man in charge. So he's going to side with them in all of these racial issues. As we can see already, he's siding with the white supremacist groups. He's tweeting videos of people saying white power. And I mean, they just feel like, hey, we got our boy, in office and we can just, we can say the N word out loud. We can walk around heavily armed and opposed the Black Lives Matter and called, in fact, the Black Lives Matter is considered to be a terrorist organization.
Hmm.
And it kind of reminds me of like when the Black Panthers, came up. It was like any type of organization that Black people collectively put together and is successful in creating some type of positive social change, then it is considered to be a terrorist organization. That has not changed. That is one thing that hasn't changed in this country. And I think that the Black Lives Matter movement is here to stay. And I think that it is going to be that movement um, is going to be the vehicle that actually got us started with racial equality. So yeah.
So I understand wholeheartedly what you said in reference to that. As we speak upon race issues and things of that nature, and people causing a great deal of conflict amongst the various races, do you think that uh, racism is taught, or is it learned, or is it what's your opinion in terms of people who exhibit these particular characteristics? Do you think it's taught?
Yeah, I think it's taught, I think it's observed, and I think that that racism is now a normal part of society. There is a theory called I'm having a senior moment here. The racial uh, it'll come to me, but it's a theory on race, and it supposes that race has become racism is a natural part of society, and that it is no longer um, something that's shocking. It's like it's common, like the flu, like the
Hmm.
cold. It's not anything that anybody. It's so entrenched in our culture, and it always has been entrenched in the American culture. It's called the critical race theory, and that's it. And I think that when children grow up and they see this as the norm, they don't even recognize that they're doing anything that's wrong.
I agree.
They see it as normal.
I agree. Now, in that same aspect, how do and you have kids, how do you, or what do you teach your kids as it relates to uh, what's going on, and how to react in certain situations, and according to the way, as you mentioned earlier, that race is, you know someone who's race is they see other people doing it. So how do you teach your kids, or what do you tell them, so that they not grow up like other races?
Well, they are grown up now. They are grown, full grown men. And I think one of the things that I taught them, of course, what happens when you encounter a police officer. But let me go back a little bit farther than that. I remember when my son, Justin, was about 4 or 5 years old, and I took him out on a playground. And he and I were the only ones out on the playground at first. And then they had like three little white kids came out on the playground as well. And they began to uh, he wanted to play. He's a kid.
Hmm.
He wanted to just please the other kids. Hey, I'm not out here by myself. Let's go play. Every time he went to, if they were on the swings, he would go by the swings and they would leave the swings. If they want a merry-go-round, he'd go by the merry-go-round and they would leave the merry-go-round. He'd go by whatever they were playing and they would just leave. And at some point, I saw, him discouraged, and he didn't really quite understand what was going on. So I called him, and that was the first time he and I had a conversation about race. And I had to break down to him that we live in a society where Black people are not seen as important as white people, but we are as important as white people, no matter how they treat you or how they act around you. You are just as good. You are just as important. You're just as special. You're just as smart. So I had to And during this conversation, it's funny because he told me, he said, I hate white people. And I said, no, 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 no. This is not for you to hate them.
Mhm.
It's for you to be aware that some white people feel this way. So if you go to the playground and they don't play with you, it's just that they have been taught to think this way. But all of them are not like that. And we don't want to hate. We don't want to hate anybody. So that was my first conversation, and I say first conversation that I had with my son about race. Me being the pro-black, fist in the air,
Mhm.
Angela Davis type of chick.
Mhm.
The other way I taught my son through about race, racism, and racial injustice was through reading. The first book he read was the autobiography of Malcolm X.
Mhm.
And I remember he had come home from the military and he read that book. And he came out of the room and he just gave me a big hug and said, Mama, I finally understand you now. I get it. I know why you like so radical and so pro black. And from that point, he began to educate himself. And he continues to educate himself as I do through reputable sources and not just, Tanya on the internet,
That's a
but
great
through.
point. That's a great point because a lot of people tend to just get on the internet and try to get their information from that and try to apply it to their everyday lives and what have you. So that I'm glad you pointed out. But as we move forward, you do have experience in conflict mediation, and that's important as opposed to what's going on today because there's so much conflict that's going on. Briefly tell them everyone what actually is conflict mediation. I mean, break it down into terms. I know a lot of people know what conflict is. A lot of people know what mediation is, but what is conflict mediation in your terms?
So, conflict mediation is basically when you have two parties with opposing views. And if they have a mediation, both of them agree to sit in front of a person who is where she or he try to help that person come to an agreement, to come to mutual agreements about certain things. So, say for instance, most married couples, when they divorce, sometimes they want to fight over the kids and the house and the furniture and the cars and everything else. And the judge, instead of him making if they can't come to agreement, if every time they come to court, they're back and forth, um, the judge will say, okay, before I make my final ruling, I am going to send you to a mediator to see if you guys can come up with a solution on your own. So when you go to conflict mediation, they are trying to. Well, most of the time it's court ordered in that particular situation, but you basically listen. The thing about mediation is listening first, listening to what each side think the conflict is. Most of the times it's different. Most of the times they um, are on the same page, but they don't even know it. So it's first you listen to what they perceive the conflict to be. And what you try to do is you try to get them to see each other's point of view. You're not there to make the decision. You are there to act literally as a mediator between the two parties and see if they can come to some decisions on their own. In this particular case, once they come to a settlement, it's written during that mediation, and it is basically the law. It is what they are telling the judge that they agreed upon. So writing the language is very important as well. Now, a mediation, sometimes they can't come to an agreement, and it's that's just life. and you let them know at the beginning, like, we're going to try to come to some sort of agreement between the two, but that may or may not happen. And if it doesn't, that's fine. That means you two have agreed to disagree. And you go back, to whatever source, and that you let somebody else come up with a solution for them.
Okay, very interesting. Now, as I dissect and take one portion of the mediation, it could also mean, like you said, a person who intervenes and whatnot, and sort of take control, or be like a leader, so to speak, right?
I don't even want to know if I want to call it a leader. I just more a facilitator would be a better word. They see me as the person that's like gonna bring structure to the chaos of their disagreement.
Okay. Uh, so let's deal with that word in terms of what you just said. Do you think, as it relates to what's going on today, and the fact that there's so many marches, there's so many disagreements, there's so much that's going on with the different races, and just so much. Do you think that the African American, or I'm gonna say black race lacks a quote unquote mediator, or somebody to intervene, that how it was in the '60s, that had someone that could step forth and come between and cause some type of resolution to what's going on? Do you think that's missing today, or does that have the same equation as what you were referring to?
I think that there are a lot of mediators that speak on behalf of Black people and their causes. But remember, I said at the beginning, both parties have to agree
Right.
to
Correct.
come together and, and do this back and forth. Say, for instance, Nancy Pelosi and Stephen Mnuchin and Mitch McConnell,
Mhm.
they're always in conflict. So they call themselves getting in a room and they're just going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. If they had like a mediator, somebody who is like non-judgmental, like somebody who don't know them, and it's even better when it's somebody who maybe don't even understand
Correct.
political systems,
Mhm.
because that person is basically listening, to see what is, they're just listening. And they don't have that in Congress. And that's the problem. That's a problem. That's a big problem. And but as far as you have like different advocacy groups, the ACLU, for one, I think is a great mediator for Black people in systems, and they do it through the court system. It's a form of mediation, that they act on behalf of groups of Black people in different systems that affect Black people. So I think for the most part, we have good mediators. I just think the other side is not willing to basically have that conversation, because you're dealing with two different worldviews, basically.
Wow,
So
that's a great point. So as we move forward, it again, and you help me understand. So there's a differentiation between leaders and conflict uh, mediators, right? Or-
I would say that a conflict mediator is somebody that's definitely neutral, and is a facilitator. They may lead a discussion, but they're just ground rules. You come sit at the table and you say, okay, so this isn't going to happen. There's no cursing in here. There's no name calling in here.
mm,
You have to let this person complete their entire sentence before you jump in. Let them have their turn, and then you're going to have your turn. So there are general rules that are involved. And basically, the way it goes is you get both people in the room, and that person will say, one will have their say about what's going on. The mediator is taking notes. The other person will have their say what's going on. The mediator is taking notes. And then one person leaves. And then you deal with one person at a time. And you may ask them, out of everything that you mentioned here, what are your top three concerns? And so you start breaking it down and you start asking them, um, well, why is this a concern of yours? Say, for instance, the house. That's normally something that couples fight over, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I may ask the female, so why is it so imperative for you to have the house?
Mm-hmm.
And she may say, it's not that it's just imperative, but I have so many memories here with my mother who's deceased now. And I seem like when I leave the home, it's like you know, I'm getting rid of some fond memories of hers, and it just makes me sad.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever communicated that to your husband? Or are you guys just fighting over the house? Well, I never have, spoke to my husband about that. Well, do you mind if I share that with your husband? And it goes back and forth. So the husband may realize she's just not, being a bee trying to get the house. There is some nostalgia that's attached to the house, and he maybe can understand that. So I think a facilitator try to bring some empathy to each side, to each person's point of view. Now let's do that with race.
Right. That's what I was going to.
So let's do that with a racial conflict. So let's just say, let's pick something that's happening right now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, our right to protest
There you go.
is different than their right to protest, and it's very different because they can storm Capitol buildings armed with machine guns
Mm-hmm.
and AK-47s and other long guns, and be in the Capitol with these long guns. But if a black person is walking down the street demonstrating with guns, then they send out the whole National Guard and
Mm-hmm.
and everybody. So if the other side was, let's just say the side that is, let's just say it's the governor. I'm gonna say it's the governor, but it's really the whole Republican administration who's representing the governor of this particular state. And then you have the representative from the Black Lives Matter movement, the top dog and the top dog. And then in comes me. These two have decided that, okay, we are going to come to agreement and we're going to use this person. And at the end of this meeting, we are going to agree on the things that we came up with. So I would come in and I would listen to the governor and say, okay, so why do you, why, what's going on? Why do you think that there needs to be the National Guard when they are protesting or whatever? First, I listen to the major gripes from both sides.
Mm-hmm.
And then I will start breaking it down with each one individually. And so let's just say, for instance, the governor say, well, they set buildings on fire, and they setting structures on fire,
Mm-hmm.
and we need to protect our structures. And I may say something like, but why do you think that they are setting the structures on fire? And he might give me some reasons as to why. And then I may compare that with something else. Another may ask him, so do you feel it's necessary for all protesters, for you to call in the National Guard? So we'll engage in questions
Right.
like that. And then I would, again, ask him, what are your top three concerns here? What are your top three? And then we start with the three, because normally it's a list of about 20 things. So you start with maybe the most important things to that particular person. And you do the same thing with the other side. And then there's this back and forth. I may go to the Black Lives Matter, and she's like, well, there's frustration. We know that it's wrong to burn up buildings.
Mm-hmm.
But come on, man. You seeing this time and time again, and there's a lot of frustration, that's going on. We know it's not right.
Mm-hmm.
But by the same token, we don't feel like you need to call out the National Guard when somebody is letting off a little steam. Well, a lot of steam, to be honest with you. Um, and then you come up with solutions to those issues. Well, how are you going to stop these people from setting fires?
Mhm.
Because that's this person's main concern. So you work together. You come up with solutions where you help each other out and you come to an agreement. But mind you, it is not the mediator that is coming up with the solutions. It is bringing those two together to agree to do certain things and put it in writing, etch it in stone, so to speak.
That's a great point. Now you know how easy you made that sound. I'm just sitting here listening to you. How easy you made it sound, and I mean, so delicious, and that would definitely work in the real world. I think that would definitely work. I forgot why. I don't see, my opinion is this. I don't see that I don't even know if they even have any mediators, quote unquote, for black people or whatever to go in these meetings, or maybe they do and we just don't hear about it because on the news we only hear about, only people that I've seen thus far that are out there advocating is and I give him much prop is Crump, because he's a lawyer and he represents certain people and he's trying to get things done. But I've never seen anyone else that step up and basically said these things that you have said in order to basically diffuse or maybe look at things in a more rational situation. And I'm not saying that it's always our side that have to do that, but somebody, it has to start with someone. And what you said made a great point. You want to comment on that? You follow what I'm saying?
Benjamin Crump is the attorney for one side of the problems.
Hmm.
And then there's a spokesperson, which is normally in this particular situation, it's either the mayor or the attorney general or both of them. And they are the leaders. I don't know if they even have an attorney or whatever. I'm sure they have attorneys present when they're speaking, but I don't know if there is a third party that enters into that situation. I don't know. I can say that when you have, there are international diplomats, and international diplomats are supposed to um, talk out, differences between two countries, and that's their job. They're supposed to act as a mediator, but still they are representing one side. And I think if you do add a neutral party, which is what, if you remember the Comey, not Comey, the what's the guy who did
Look for
for the impeachment, the Mueller.
okay.
So Mueller is an independent investigator who is supposed to independently investigate and put his findings forward in a very unbiased way. But he's still not acting as a mediator.
Mm.
That's what I guess a jury is supposed to do, but that's still not a true mediation. So I think that since now that we're talking about it, I think that it would be advantageous to both parties
Mm.
to have a mediator. But the problem is going to come in as to where, well, they're going to always find issues that, oh, well, you can't pick that person because that person is black and they're going to side with you, or you can't pick that person. So I guess maybe that's why they feel like it's difficult to find somebody that's neutral to represent both parties in political issues. This happens, mediations mostly happens in legal issues, like a company, like if you start working on a job, they have you sign that paper that instead of suing the company, you're going to agree to a mediation. And then that's the company would come in, and then you would come in, and I would be there to mediate. You said you gonna get a $7,000 bonus. They said he only worked here 3 months. And so we kind of like, and then you also have to look at legal issues as well too.
Okay. Wow. Well, we are speaking with Cindy Hurs, who's very diverse in a lot of social issues, especially conflict mediation. I'm glad to have you on here as we wrap up because she's very busy, y'all. Give the audience, because we have a lot of them on here, um, a little few tips for conflict mediation, if solutions, or things of the nature that may help out, not maybe in just racial issues, but just in life in general, if you may. And then I have one more question to ask you before we conclude.
And I was going to bring that up. There can be conflict mediation in any setting. It can be conflict mediation in the home, in your home. It can be conflict mediation between siblings. It can be conflict mediation between, and I mean amongst the family members. The family members can choose a mediator to say, okay, if we ever come to a major disagreement, then we're going to have such and such mediator because, mom is fair, or we're going to have, Aunt Susie or whoever mediate our issues. And it's so much better because you're not screaming at each other.
Mhm.
You're having a conversation through somebody else, and that person is conveying how you feel about certain things. And it's invoking a sense of empathy on the other side to see it from each other's perspective. You can do it in schools. You can do it you can do it in basically any situation where there's conflict. You can do it, when couples go to therapy, that's basically mediation. That's basically a therapist using certain tools to get people to see things from their side, except for a therapist tries to determine the underpinnings of that, in a clinical sense,
Mhm.
the underpinnings of that conflict.
Okay. Okay. Well, definitely you've answered a great deal of questions that people have posed and what have you. Um, So, as I conclude, I have one question I want to ask you. Considering the fact that there's so much conflict that's going on, and this is a social question with the black race and what have you, and the white race. Um, I've spoken with people in the past, and they say that blacks should just forget about this as it relates to slavery. Forget about it, move on, and focus on what's there in front of you and what have you, and just try to do quote unquote do you. Now that creates a conflict in a sense because uh, with the Black Wall Street, black folks did try to do that in terms of create their own just own source of living, banks, things of that nature, and it still created a great deal of conflict. It created problems, and in essence, Black Wall Street was destroyed. My question to you is: do you think that blacks should just forget about their what has happened in the past and stop? Because a lot of people think, well, you're just harping on it, you never get anywhere. What's your opinion about that as far as us trying to move forward? And this is a social issue, social question.
The name of my company is Sankofa Project, and Sankofa is a term that means you can't move forward unless you look backwards. And I think the main the and this is basically it in a nutshell, in my opinion. The reason why we have racial tension between black and white people, or white and brown people, is basically because at the beginning of the history of this country, that they painted black people in a very dehumanizing way. The culture made us subservient and lesser than. And you have to realize that history is not just something that happened way in the past. History continues. We're history right now. We're actually walking history. 100 years from now, people are going to look back. It all fits together. It's all a continuation. And how we began in this country was people in whole. I mean, the original Constitution had us as three-fifth human. So
Yep.
they originally, I mean, they took it out of the Constitution, but then, slavery went on for a very long time. And then when slavery ended and we tried during the Reconstruction period, we had a brief moment, like you said, the Wall Street, we sat on juries, we're voting, everything was cool for about 5 years before that whole idea of we lost a lot of money and we need our money back and we need free labor and we may as well get in these people that's less than
Hmm.
us. So a lot of it is, and then and just to show you how close that is, then you have the Civil War, which was actually fighting for that. And then you have Jim Crow, which was in the 60s. I was born in the 60s. So you have these, it's not that long ago. So do you really think that in a general sense, in a gut feeling, in your heart, that people can just stop seeing us as lesser than? Like, it's just kind of like ingrained in that culture
Yep.
until white people in this country start seeing us as their equal. There will never be any equity until they are ready to relinquish their power. And I mean that in a very literal sense.
Yep.
Like, you don't need that job. You bored. You got millions in the bank. You need to go ahead on and promote that sister or that brother.
Hmm.
I mean, literally relinquish some power and make, whatever your organization is look like the population.
That's right.
So, but again, I'm hoping beyond hopes that the younger generation, and they're angry. They are mad. They don't like the way things are happening. Their schools are getting shot up. They see, who's out there protesting with Black Lives Matter? Young white kids,
That's right.
young informed kids.
That's right.
And guess who's going to be voting soon? Young white kids, young black kids. They're going to be 18 soon enough. I think hopefully after Joe Biden is elected, I think we're done with the whole old white man scenario as the president. I think you're going to start seeing more progressive people like AOC and all of the rest of the younger progressive people come to the fore because they don't like racism. They don't like it. They want to, they don't like people not accepting, their gender. They are fed up with it. So I think that I may not be alive to see the fullness of it, but I think that I'll be alive to see the beginning of it, uh, where it's slowly going to trickle away. But I also think that if we get another 4 years of Trump, that's going to be almost impossible because I think that he is going to turn this into an autocracy and not a
Wow.
democracy.
Well said, girl. That's why I just want to sit back and just take it all in. This was your show. It wasn't mine. I mean, I appreciate what you've
No,
done.
Anthony, this is your show all day long. And before we go,
Go
I
ahead.
would like to tell anybody who is out there watching, um, Anthony is an extraordinary individual. I met Anthony. I don't know how long ago was it, Anthony? Maybe about 15 years ago.
15.
Yeah, I met Anthony, and Anthony, I was new to working with people who live with significant disabilities. And I was just always amazed at the resilience of, people, the things that they have to cope with and learn, to do, and but still not see themselves, as a disabled person, just a regular person who happens to have a disability. But at any rate, so I saw in Anthony told me, I got me a degree. He was part of a fraternity and he was just all these things. And I'm like, I gotta help you. I got to find a way to get you to a place where, you can really exemplify all of your talents. And it's a sad truth that another thing that we need to crush in social justice is ableism. Um, it's a privilege, just like whiteness is a privilege. Being able-bodied is a privilege. So there's a lot of discrimination against in the workforce against people who are living with significant disabilities. And it just kind of like broke my heart that I just couldn't find anybody to that would, and this wasn't just for Anthony, it was for other people as well too that I represented, to pay him, give him a job that utilized his intellect and not his physical body, and pay him the same amount that they would pay anybody else. So that's really real.
Look, the check is in the mail. As I don't want to divert, but the check is in the mail. But let me tell you one thing: you may have not provided anything, but every time I do these shows, I promise you, I keep you in mind, because I saw how you were doing. I saw what you were doing, and I hear your voice, and giving me inspiration and whatnot. And I'm not just saying this; it's really them dead ass. I hear you whenever I put these things together, and that's motivation for me. So I want to thank you for that. I really appreciate it. I love you, man, for real, for everything that you've done. Just whatever you think that's little that you've done, it magnifies 200 times, and I appreciate that. So anyway, enough about me. What's next for you as far as you move forward?
Oh wow, there comes a time in your life where you feel yourself morphing into something different, or maybe you're moving. I can't really describe that feeling, but I guess we all go an evolution process. And I even took down my website because I didn't think that it represented anymore what I am currently doing and what I'm about to do. I can really see myself right now. For a long time, I've been working in direct service, working with people individually. And I can really, right now, I think that I am being prepared by forces that are beyond my control to take on more of a role of advocacy, system changer,
okay,
that type of thing. So, and I don't really know at this point in what capacity. I have no idea. Is it really exciting? Isn't life exciting? Because you never know what's going to happen.
That's right. That's right.
So, I mean, but you can definitely believe whatever it is I'm doing, I'm still going to have that fist pumped. I'm still going to, be shouting justice and equity for all people. And Anthony, you're an inspiration too.
Oh, girl, thank you. Well, if there's anything I can do for you, let me know as I get ready to play my outro and let you go about your business. We're going to keep in touch. If there's anything that I can do, please let me know. And I want to thank my subscribers, the people that we had like 20-some people here that were checking it out. If y'all, I'm glad y'all enjoyed the show, and just continue. And I do my best to bring y'all top-notch entertainment. I always want to say that word. And definitely it continues with Cindy Hurs, man. If y'all want to get her interview, get her on y'all show, y'all go through me or whatever. I'll put the link in the description, whatever the case may be. But again, thanks, Cindy, for everything that you've done in my life, and continue to be great success and an impact on everyone else that you touch. I'm not that. I don't be doing all that kind of emotional kind of stuff, but I love you, man, for real. Thanks a lot.
Same here.
All right. Well, I'm gonna end the show and play the outro, and we'll continue to talk. Thanks a lot.
Okay.
All
Bye-bye.
right. All right. Thank y'all. Hope y'all enjoyed the show. Thanks a lot. I want to thank Cindy Hurs, my real good friend, all the way from Arkansas, y'all. Doing big things. I'm glad she was able to stop by and bless me with her interview. Hey man, y'all stay strong, man. I'm gonna do my best to continue to bring y'all. As a matter of fact, if y'all got any suggestions, y'all let me know. Let me know in the comments, whatever the case may be. I want to thank First Amendment Ed, Alita Donaldson, Tawanda Sims, Marie, Resume, for those are the ones who I was able to check out. If y'all really have any suggestion, man, y'all let me know, man. Real talk, man. I guess that's it.
All right, Anthony, that was a really good. You are doing what you were meant to do.
Oh, girl, thank you so much. I'm really happy for it. So thank you so much. And like I said, please, girl, let's stay in touch. All right.
For real.
All right. Bye.
All right.
All right.
Bye.